everyone, Ken here from Firing the Man Podcast, and we're creating a mini-series and we're sharing everything we've learned from 4 years of podcasting, 180 episodes in, and we've interviewed 100 people, and all of you new podcasters out there, or if you've been podcasting a while and you just kind of want to level up your game, we've picked 10 of our top topics, and we're going to share them with you, and hopefully it'll help you level up. This video is going to cover how to outline podcast episodes. And we've got 7 tips on this, and we'll go over them, and I'll kind of share a little bit on each of these on what we do exactly for our podcast, Firing the Man. Outlining a podcast episode helps to make sure that content of your podcast is organized, engaging, and focused. We're going to cover 7 tips on how to outline a podcast episode, and I'll just share with you all of our episodes, whether we have a topic we're going to cover on Amazon FBA or finance or P&Ls or Walmart, they're all outlined. We've done research. We have them outlined. We have topics we're going to cover. We might stray, and we do, but at least we can always bring it back in there, and if we get stuck, and also just to make sure that you cover the content that you're wanting to share with your audience. And help them help answer the question that they have. Otherwise, they're not searching you on YouTube, and they are. And so make sure you answer that question, and that it's highly relevant. So first tip, identify your goal. What do you want to achieve with the episode? Determine the main purpose behind your podcast and what topics you're going to cover in this particular episode. For example, let's say you have a guest on. We had a guest on the show just yesterday. And this guest had a wealth of knowledge in sales and marketing. And so we outlined the show based on sales and marketing and what this guest's specialty was and what he was an expert at. And so we could extract all of the relevant information from sales and marketing that this guest had accumulated over 20 years of experience and share that with our listeners. And so making sure you have, you can extract that information in a relevant way, put that in your outline. It'll just make it so much easier. Gather your materials, do research for your topics, and collect relevant content such as quotes, questions, facts, anecdotes, etc. It's going to be used in the episode. So I'll give an example for our podcast, Firing the Man. Sometimes we do breaking news in the e-commerce industry. And on that episode, we'll gather facts and data and references, sources, all of that. And so if you're going to spit out facts and news and stuff, make sure you have references and everything to kind of back that up. Versus so nobody's going to trust you if you're just spitting out useless facts, and they're going to be kind of questioning you. But if you have sources and references, it's super, super helpful. Create an outline. This is tip 3. Create an outline. Create an outline for each section of the episode, including intros, guest interviews, segments like Q&A, stories, examples, and an outro. And so for our podcast, Firing the Man, we have everything down. We have our intro where we introduce the guest. We have several topics we want to cover, what that guest is an expert on. We have our fire round where we ask questions. If you're not familiar with it, listen to our podcast. You'll hear the fire round. It's pretty awesome. And then I always turn it over to David, and he closes out the show with, how can listeners get a hold of you, and kind of sharing emails, websites, if there's any promotions that they're going to run, offers they're going to give. And so have that outline. It just helps. It's huge. Next one, tip 4, prepare questions or scripts, write them down, create a script, depending on what kind of format it is, and make sure that it's related to the topic of discussion, and it sounds natural. What you don't want to do is you don't want to have a series of scripted questions that you're just reading off. You kind of want it to flow naturally, and you might skip around a little bit, but have them prepared, and if you're going to do a script, make sure you practice it a little bit, and so it doesn't look like it's too robotic. People will just see right through that, and it's not good. You definitely want to be natural. So, prepare ahead of time, have some script, practice it. It'll really help. Number 5, rehearse over audio. to ensure the flow is natural and to make sure you don't miss any important points while recording live audio. This is another thing, it kind of goes hand in hand with number 4. Just prepare. Practice. David and I sometimes, depending on what topic we're going to cover, we might just touch base a little bit beforehand and say, okay, who's covering what are we going to cover, and just get everybody on the same page before you get online, before you go and start recording and it kind of, goes south, and then you got to, redo it, and that's just a waste of time. Number 6, record your episode using high quality recording equipment and software like Audacity or GarageBand for post-production editing tasks. And so we use GarageBand. We also have some other stuff on our podcast hosting software, Magic Mastering. We have a couple of other things. As your podcast grows, you're going to want to level up and make sure you have, really good audio. I mean, podcasting is strictly audio, and so you want that audio to be dialed in. You want it to be the best. You don't want someone, driving home from work listening to your podcast and it's all sketchy. They're just not going to listen. They're going to find something else. So make sure your audio is dialed in, and post production editing. If you have that, make sure that's really high quality. Number 7, last tip: publish. Publish your podcast through a hosting provider. We use Buzzsprout. There's a bunch of other ones out there, Transistor, Podbean, all kinds of hosting providers, and Apple Podcasts, Spotify. Use them to amplify and promote it. Once it's published, your podcast, share it on social media. Whether you use Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, whatever you use, make sure you promote it and share it out there. More reach will help, and you'll also kind of over time find out where your listeners are. Where are they hanging out? And then that's when you want to really amplify it. And hopefully this video was helpful. How to outline a podcast episode like a pro. Thank you.